Looking for cheap or free flights by redeeming your airline miles this summer? Well, then you'll want to know who came out on the top and the bottom of the highly anticipated annual survey of the 25 largest frequent flyer programs. Here to discuss the results is WSJ Middle Seat columnist Scott McCartney. Scott, it's so wonderful to have you here.
Great to be here in person, Tanya.
Tell us a little bit about this survey and how it works, who does it. It's 5 years running now.
5 years running. It's done by a consulting firm called IdeaWorks and a guy named Jay Sorensen, who used to work in the airline business and now works as a consultant to loyalty programs. And there's a technology company that sponsors it, Switchfly, and they just do thousands and thousands of queries looking for available seats on certain days on busiest routes for each airline. And tally up what's available. It's essentially how you and I would search for flights. They just do thousands of searches and compile the data and give us a really good look at how stingy are airlines and which ones are generous.
And it's caused some real reform in the airline industry, hasn't it?
Yeah, it really has. This is the first sort of quantitative way of looking at the ability to redeem your frequent flyer miles. And that's made a difference, particularly with airlines on the bottom of the survey.
Sure.
Delta in particular has
been shamed into improving.
Has been shamed into improving, and they say that this has had an impact. When we did the first story 5 years ago, and there were a lot of people inside Delta that said, no, you're wrong, and we stuck with it, and every year, and they came around, and now they're making changes.
This year, Delta wins the most improved award, let's say, but they're still not on the top. Who's at the top?
Yeah, at the top, Southwest, where in all the queries that were made, they had 2 seats available on every single flight, 100% availability. The Southwest has some natural advantages with the short route structure they have. On most of their busy routes, they have multiple flights. So if you have 10, 12, 15 flights a day, you ought to be able to find 2 seats somewhere.
So Gold Star for Southwest. Who else is doing well?
Gold Star for JetBlue, 93% availability. Again, really, they're on a point system like Southwest. They do make it easy to actually use their awards, and neither one of those carriers has sort of the 15-year legacy of people with trillions of miles in their accounts that are all competing for the same seat.
And who else is doing pretty well?
United, among U.S. carriers, United among the network guys is doing well. Some of the international carriers, Singapore does well. Virgin Australia comes out very high in this survey. Air Berlin. It's interesting. Some of the discount value carriers actually do much better in availability than
that is
the old
interesting.
line network
And
carriers.
now, who really needs to up the game? Who's at the bottom of the list, Scott?
Well, now that Delta's off the bottom, what's left is U.S. Airways. U.S. Airways has historically been quite stingy with frequent flyer award availability. Still, only in this survey, 35% of the queries that were made, they had seats available.
Not good.
Not good. And a little bit worrisome for people who are American Airlines flyers, because with the merger, it remains to be seen sort of whether American's philosophy will win out or U.S. Airways' stingier philosophy will win out.
Now, what is behind the changes here? Obviously, the survey has something to do with it, but that's not the whole story.
Yeah, I think so. You know, frequent flyers have complained for years that they can't use their miles.
Right.
And so that's certainly still a problem. There's no doubt that it is difficult to use the miles. But I think some airlines, particularly Delta says, look, that was the #1 gripe they were getting from customers. They realized it was hurting their brand, so they had to do something about it. There are 2 other things that are happening sort of behind the scenes. The banks that are buying frequent flyer miles to give you and I when we make purchases on our credit cards, they're pressuring airlines to make seats more available so that those rewards are more competitive with other rewards.
So do the banks carry more weight than the customers?
And, well, it's all a matter of dollars.
Yeah.
And the other thing it's changes, accounting rules have made it, created an incentive for airlines to get miles off their books.
Right.
So that's helped too.
All right, Scott McCarthy, thank you so much. I'll get excited when I can use my miles to fly to Paris in the summer, right? When that happens, I'll be happy.
Absolutely. Right.
Thank you so much, Scott McCarthy.